Last one from me, Emma. I want to get some of your wide thoughts on independent media. Obviously, you've spent your entire career, as far as I know, working in independent media. You got your start over at the Young Turks, unless there was somewhere that you worked before them, and now you've worked
No,
over
I mean,
at.
I did like Democratic Party internships and things like that.
Ooh,
But
fancy stuff.
yeah,
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of get your perspective at a bird's eye level. Could you talk a little bit about your entry level experiences over at the Young Turks and now
sure.
at the Majority Report? Could you compare and contrast a little bit? And just kind of talk about what drew you to this independent business model. Obviously you could have been gunning for a role at CNN. Obviously you could have been after a panel job on MSNBC. You decided to go Young Turks, then Majority Report FM. Just curious about how that all went down.
Well, yeah, I I was I my background is my parents are lawyers, right? I grew up outside of New York City in New Jersey, and I had always thought that like my future was to be a lawyer, like my parents. And I was gonna go to law school, and I had a
Womp
professor.
womp.
Yeah, didn't happen. My sister did though, so my parents did like get their dream fulfilled in that way. But um, I've always been, I don't know, like somebody that I I I I never connected to like a kind of capitalist culture or wanting to make like a ton of money. It just I perhaps it's the luxury of like having comfort or whatever, but it just there was something about that environment that was very stifling to me and not I always felt socially and sometimes physically uncomfortable in those settings. And
Same.
I had there you go. I had a professor, this woman, Professor Suhei. I'll just say her name. She ended up leaving for another university, but she kind of took a special interest in me when she was like, "You should not go to law
And where'd you
school."
go to school, Emma?
Lafayette College.
Oh, okay.
And like she was like, "Your interest isn't," because I would, you should be in media. Basically, she was saying that I was a good communicator and that I was passionate about politics, and so I was a huge fan of Janks and TYTs. Like I was the head of Young Democrats in high school, and I remember playing some of his videos railing against the Republicans. And my advisor had to have a talk with me after because she was like, "That's too angry and divisive." But like I was a huge fan of, I would say, Jank in particular. I really, really looked up to him. And so on a whim, I was like, I don't know if I really want to go to law school. I'm going to take a year off after school and just like work somewhere and see if it's really what I want to do as I study for the LSAT. I got an internship with TYT, and I just basically like my friends and my mom and like my parents. My mom was supportive, and she was just like, you got to go for it, and I did, and I was able to live at home for basically a year because I was not paid well. But I was on the road for quite a while with Jordan Sheridan, and that was really incredible experience in many ways. Like there were issues there. Obviously, it came out, and that's why he was no longer not related to me, but similar. Why he was no longer with that network, um, but he still did teach me a lot, and like going to Standing Rock and doing the tour of the Rust Belt. That was part of why I thought that Hillary had a good chance to lose. And then eventually TYT did their fundraising drive for journalists in the wake of Trump's victory. So I got hired off of that. And it was really like from there on out, I was a full employee of TYT. I was able to get an apartment. And I just was on the road for them a lot, going to, cover Trump rallies and going to different campaign events. And it just became clear at a certain point that like I wasn't gonna get much more money there. And
Yeah,
they
what was
wanted
your experience like as an employee? How does Jank treat his employees? Give us the tea. This is the Vanguard.
well, look, I'm a host, so I think and producers I think have a very probably a different experience than the uh the staff that try to unionize, right? And I know you've covered this for sure. Like, um,
Oh yeah,
it
like flies on shit.
I don't doubt it. But, I was treated okay. I you know, I had I had the luxury of like being able to save up and live at home, right? And that was what got me by. But it still was not a lot of pay, and a lot of, I don't know. I don't know how much you guys want to get into it or whatever, but I think
we'll
that
get into it.
the hosts are treated well. I do think that like there was a lot of suppression of I don't think. I know there was a lot of suppression of that unionization effort, and so even though I wasn't paid that well, I always felt like appreciated. But I was trying really hard to build up a New York operation in New York City, which like they weren't really that interested in. And I wanted to do a show remotely from New York, which they weren't that interested in. They wanted me to move out to LA. My now fiance, we were just boyfriend and girlfriend at the time, had just lived in LA and he didn't want to move back there. And so like
Pretty
it was
sweet.
like, I'm making 5 figures. Should I leave this relationship that I'm really excited about to go move out there, but still do the same thing? And like, I asked Cenk that, and he was kind of like, "Yeah, you should." I'm like, why? No, like you guys want me to do the same thing and be on the road all the time. I'm gonna do that from New York. I'm not gonna move out there, and you're not really offering me any more pay. And it's a little presumptuous for you to tell me that I shouldn't be in this relationship anymore to go and work out there where like I'm not going to be the main host. I would only at most be a supplemental host. So it just became clear to me that I had to leave. And it wasn't, honestly, it was less the treatment because I did have, and I was really close friends with Anna at this point, or I thought, and other people there like John and some of the and folks behind the scenes, like great people behind the scenes. They're like Cassie and Mary, and I mean JR and all these folks I really like there. But it was more just like Sam and I had spoken been speaking for a while. I would be the main co-host here, and I would be able to be based in Brooklyn. And and at the end of the day, sorry, I get awkward. I get like nervous talking about some of this stuff because it's
That's
not
all
in my
good.
wheelhouse. But
That's all good.
I noticed that the coverage was becoming a bit more reactionary. Even
Back then?
even then, yeah. And I had conversations with someone else who left at the same time, who also was saying, I don't know about the business side of things. They may have overextended themselves in certain areas, and you could probably see
Clearly
why
they have. Yeah.
polymarket sponsorship happens. It was the right decision, and it was a great like experience for me in the sense of my gut said, I don't think this is going well for them. There's a lot of expenses here that don't seem to make sense. The main show is becoming more reactionary, and I don't necessarily know if it meets the moment. I'm concerned that they've plateaued or on the decline. And then what does that mean for me? I could leave now and I could work with someone who I really respect and learn from him. And that's what I did. And my gut was right. And like, it's the best move I've ever made. Best decision I've ever made in my life. And, Sam is, I was saying this to him the other day, but like, I learned so much from him. And he's just been like, I don't know if he's ever said no to me about time off or request I've had or anything. He's just very
Pushover Cedar. Let's go.
Chill.
Everybody apply at the Majority Report FM. It's a soft seat.
So that was long-winded, but there you
great
go.
answer.
That's my background.
Wow. I mean, really appreciate the insights into what it was like at the beginning working for the Young Turks. And also, I mean, you really did get out at the right time. Like it's kind of crazy that you were able to see those red flags because basically everything that you felt came true. All of that came true, not just with the finances, but with the reactionary direction of the network. And yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious you made the right choice in retrospect.
Look out the door if you hear an ambulance. The Vanguard will be there.